Good morning. Chapter 10, Lesson 5 is on page 448. We're going to be adding and subtracting rational expressions, but this time they're going to have, unlike denominators. We're going to have to come up with a least common multiple, a least common denominator, like we used to do in fractions. If we had 2 over 5 plus 3 over 6, let's say, we would have to turn these into the least common denominator of a 30 and multiply this one by 6 over 6, or just 1, which would give us a 12. And we'd have to multiply this second one by 5 over 5, which is a 1, to give us the plus 15. And we'd end up with 27 over 30. And we could reduce when possible. So the same thing is going to occur today in unlike denominators. We have to find what unlike denominators can have common, least common multiples or least common denominators. So let's start with number 1. We have something with halves, we have something with eighths, and we can see right off the bat that the denominator is going to have to be 8 for both sides. So we have a squared over 2, and we've got to get that into 8, so let's multiply that by 4 over 4, and we're going to leave the second one alone as 3a squared over 8. And if we do the math for this, this turns out to be 4a squared over 8 plus 3a squared over 8, which gives us our final answer of 7a squared over 8. So finding the least common denominator wasn't quite so bad. Chapter 10, Lesson 5 does a good job of explaining the least common multiples, and we have an example in number 33 to see if we can come up with the multiples of m squared minus 5m plus 6 and m squared minus 4m plus 4. Well, we know from chapter 6 that this can be factored into m minus 3 and m minus 2. Use the box, or you can do it mentally. The second one looks like it can be factored into m minus 2 and m minus 2. They're not trinomial squares. Well, the second one is, not the first one though. Okay? So let's look at these two. We have the factors m minus 3, m minus 2. We have the factor m minus 2 and m minus 2. And just like we used to do in denominators, for least common denominators, I'm going to circle those things that are in common. And we're going to take everything else to make our least common multiple. So our least common multiple is going to be m minus 3, m minus 2, and another m minus 2. So our multiple turns out to be m minus 3 times the quantity of m minus 2 squared. So we do our loops. We take everything that's common in both terms, and then we make sure we take everything as well. So we had an m minus 2. We took the m minus 3, and we took this m minus 2, and that's what our least common multiple turned out to be. We get a bonus in Chapter 10, Lesson 5. I'm going to do 3 problems on this one, and then I'm going to do the huge problem in another video on problem number 73. So our last problem today is going to be number 35, and you'll notice that we broke up Chapter 10, Lesson 5 into 2 days. Let's take a look at 9t and 6t, and 6t. And let's see if we can come up with what our least common multiples should be. Well, this looks like 3 times 3 times t. This looks like 3 times 2 times t. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to do our loops. So we're going to take the t's. We're going to take the 3's. And we're going to use that information to come up with, we circle the 3, okay. We circle the t, okay. We're going to take the remaining 2, and we're going to take the other 3, and we're going to multiply this out. 3 times 2 is 6 times 3 is 18 times t. So we came up with our least common multiple being 18t. So we've got to convert 2 over 9t into 18t. So let's multiply it by 1. Let's convert 11 over 6t into 18t by multiplying it by 3 over 3. So our denominator now for this one is 4 over 18t. And the second term becomes 33 over 18t. Oops, those t's should be, oh no, they are in the denominator. That's right. So when we finish this calculation, we end up with 37 in the numerator, and our denominator is going to be 18t. So there's our final solution for number 35. Let me review. We found the least common multiple of 9t and 6t. 9t was 3, 3, and t. 6t was 3, 2, and t. Just like in least common denominators, we looped everything. We took the t's, we took the 3's. Don't forget the other 2. Don't forget the other 3. And we found our least common multiple be 18t. So we had to convert 19t into 18t by multiplying it by 1, which was the 2 over 2. We had to do the same thing with the 16t. We had to multiply the denominator by 3, but also the numerator by 3. And when we simplified, we had 4 over 18t plus 33 over 18t combined like terms. We ended up with our final solution. Chapter 10, Lesson 5 is complicated, and we're going to go slow, so just don't panic. We'll see you all tomorrow.